Welcome to another edition of Software Explorations, Concepts and Overviews, hosted by yours truly, Tech Coach Ralph, where, as always, we are engineered to win. In today's episode, we are going to dig a little bit deeper into the G of GRC. Once again, GRC stands for governance, risk management, and compliance. Last week, we had our first introductory to GRC where we're finding out a little bit more about it, how it works, and things like that. This week, we're going to dive deeper into governance. So, without wasting any more time, let's just dive right into the G of GRC. Let's dive into governance, all right? So, we're going to be digging a little bit deeper today into governance, as we mentioned. All right. So, our agenda for today, right? We're going to talk about the definition of governance, the key elements of governance, the objective of governance, and the role of governance in organizational success. All right. So let's go. So first and foremost, we kind of covered this last week, but let's get a refresher. What the heck is governance? So here we have the best governor in the union, as well as the worst governor in the union. You guys decide who's who. I'm just putting it out there, two opposing sides. Now, I'm not saying which is which, but we have the best, we have the worst. But we're not talking about this type of governance. We're talking about governance in cybersecurity, which there's probably a lot of correlation, but let's go. All right, so what is governance, right? Security governance is a process for overseeing the cybersecurity teams who are responsible for mitigating business risks. Security governance leaders make the decision that allows risks to be prioritized so that security efforts are focused on business priorities rather than their own. Okay, so it's about the business priorities, not their own priorities. All right. So let's jump into the key elements of governance. So here I put up the periodic table of elements, right? And here in purple, it has the essentials for humans, and then in green, the suggested essentials, and then the rest are non-essentials, right? The reason I put it up there is because the key elements of governance for cybersecurity, you can think about it as similar to the key elements for humans and the suggested essential elements. So with that mindset, let's go to what are the key elements of governance in cybersecurity, right? So policies and procedures, leadership and oversight, and we're gonna touch on each one of these individually, but I just want to go down the whole list of what we're going to be touching on, right? Risk management, compliance and legal requirements, security awareness and training, incident response and management, vendor and supply chain risk management, technology and infrastructure, continuous monitoring and assurance, performance measurement and reporting. All right. So now let's jump in and dive into each one of those one by one to get a little bit more clarity on what each of them is, because so many people are interested in cybersecurity, so many people are interested in GRC, and it is essential that we get a comprehensive breakdown of each of these, because whether you are in whatever you're doing in tech, right, there's going to be some aspect of these that directly impact you. So it's a good opportunity for us to get a little bit more familiar with each of these. So policies and procedures, right? So you can think about it as a checklist of things that needs to be done, the way that they should be followed. So policies and procedures, establishing clear policies, standards, guidelines, and procedures that define expectations, responsibilities, and acceptable behaviors related to cybersecurity within the organization. And as we go along, you're going to see a connection to accountability based on the procedures and the policies set in place. Leadership and oversight. Appointing executive leadership such as a Chief Information Security Officer, a CISO, responsible for cybersecurity oversight, strategic direction, and alignment with business objectives. This included establishing governance structures, committees, and reporting mechanisms to ensure accountability, and visibility at the highest levels of the organization, right? We have to protect our companies. We have to protect our organizations, right? So risk management, implementing risk management processes to identify, assess, and prioritize and mitigate cybersecurity risk across the organization's systems assets, and operations. This involves considering factors such as threats, vulnerabilities, potential impacts, and risk tolerance levels, right? So it's like you take all the potential threats, the risk, and you say, okay, what can we be flexible on? What do we have to be like, okay, no way, Jose. And if your name is Jose, I apologize. But that's pretty much saying what's going on. You have to, it's about like finding that just right balance, you know? Now, compliance and legal requirements. So we're ensuring compliance with the relevant laws, regulations, industry standards, and contractual obligations related to cybersecurity, right? And just to talk about that a little bit, right? Because you need to make sure that whatever it is that you do, it falls within all of those aspects. Because let's say like you follow the relevant laws, but not the regulations, or you don't follow the industry standards, but you're meeting up the regulations and the relevant laws, or you're violating your contractual obligations. All of these are risks, and you need to make sure that you are in compliance with all of those, right? This includes staying abreast of evolving regulatory landscapes and implementing controls to address compliance requirements, right? So GRC, it is an aspect of cybersecurity that doesn't require like code, but you need to be up to date on the documentations, always following along what new things are coming out, making sure that your company is always in compliance, because the second that you fall out of compliance, that's when you are at risk for attacks and stuff like that. So security awareness and training. I'm sure all of us have gone through security awareness and training at some point if we work for any major or minor or small company, right? But you need to make sure that you are doing the best things possible to secure your company. So promoting a culture of security awareness and providing ongoing training and education to employees, contractors, and stakeholders on cybersecurity best practices, policies, and procedures, right? I know at my company, I just finished up the security training and stuff like that. So, and every company should have their own aspect of that to protect the company, to make sure that everyone is signing off to be accountable for what they're doing on the job and off the job as well. So, incident response and management. Establishing incident response plans, procedures, and teams to effectively detect, respond to, and recover from cybersecurity incidents, breaches, or disruptions. This includes conducting post-incident reviews and implementing lessons learned to improve resilience, right? A lot of times people think that these things are to like cast blame and stuff, but no, it is not to cast blame. It is to be in preparation. Like what went wrong? How did that happen? How can we prevent it in the future? That is some companies, they call them postmortems, right? Or root cause analysis. We're just trying to figure out what happened and how we can prevent it from happening in the future. It's not to cast blame, but it's to be better prepared for next time and to prevent a next time as well. So vendors and supply chain risk. So I have a picture here of like different supply chain ways. We have ships, we have trucks, we have trains, we have planes. So and this picture shows like you're going all around the world, right? Around the height of the pandemic, there was like so many supply chain issues, and then there's also been like supply chain issues with chip manufacturers and stuff like that. So this part is very, very important, and this part right here is what can control the prices, where they go up or down. So we just have to make sure that we are monitoring these things. So assessing and managing cybersecurity risk associated with third-party vendors, suppliers, and partners through due diligence, contractual agreements, and ongoing monitoring, right? So for example, one of the episodes of The Bug Bite, we were talking about how I forgot, I think it was either 23andMe or it was another company, right? But because of a third party like hack, they were able to get into their company, which accessed a much larger database, right? So with that being said, all of this stuff is very important to see, like, what are the risks in the supply chain, the vendors and stuff like that, doing proper audits on those vendors to make sure that their systems are secure as well, and that they won't impact your system, and that like supply chain stuff it keeps moving, and continuous monitoring to make sure that everything is on the up and up. All right. Now, technology and infrastructure. Implementing appropriate security controls, technologies, and infrastructure to protect organizations' information, assets, networks, systems, and data from unauthorized access, misuse, or exploitation, right? It's every single day we are using computers, we're using phones, we're using whatever the case may be. And we just have to make sure that all of those things are put together. And, and with the time now that so many people are working hybrid or working from home, you really need to make sure that your things are secure. Like, so having VPNs in place, having authentication, SSO or SSO login. Some people use Okta, some people might use like a open VPN, whatever the case may be. But it's to prevent unauthorized access, because if the wrong person gets into your system, it will be hell, right? So, and then if people misuse your system because they're unauthorized access, so this is why this is like one of the most important parts of the protecting and securing our technology and our infrastructure. Now, continuous monitoring. It's establishing mechanisms for continuous monitoring, assessment, and assurance of cybersecurity controls, processes, and activities to identify gaps, vulnerabilities, or emerging threats. So, like I mentioned last week, I was running some scripts over the weekend, and I was running it for quite a while, but it was just like the slowness that I was running, like ping, 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 ping. Somebody reached out to me saying, "Hey, monitoring the logs, I see that your user is sending like continuous requests over and over and over again. I want to know, is this valid or is this a problem?" And I'm like, "Okay, yes, this is valid. It's going to be running throughout the weekend. Okay, I'm going to add you to the exclusion list just for these next few days, and then it should go down because you shouldn't be hitting the system that much." So once Monday morning came around and the scripts were done, I said, "Hey, this is done. You can put me back on the take me off the exclusion list to make sure that there aren't nothing coming under my name that's not right." And they said, "Got it, perfect, thanks." So this part is super, super important. Always monitoring the system, making sure that things look right. Now, performance measurement. Developing metrics, key performance indicators, like we mentioned before, KPIs, and reporting mechanisms to track and to communicate the effectiveness of cybersecurity governance efforts to stakeholders, including senior management and the board of directors. So, as always, people want to see what's going on, the value that's being added to make sure things are working. So, coming up with let's say making sure that everybody took their security training, for instance, right? Or these attacks were trying to be levied and we were able to stop them this way. Our monitoring caught this, that, and the other. Passwords are being rotated every X amount of days, stuff like that, right? So that's where the performance measurement comes in. Now, let's get into the objectives of governance, right? So, establishing accountability. Mentioned it earlier in this video, right? Establishing accountability. Governance in cybersecurity aims to define clear roles, responsibilities, and accountability for managing information security risk across the organization. This includes responsibilities to individuals, teams, and departments to ensure that cybersecurity efforts are coordinated and effective, right? If one link in the chain is broken, then we can have a catastrophe, right? So we have to make sure that the responsibility goes across individuals, teams, and departments. Everyone is responsible for cybersecurity. It's not the CISO, right? It's not like the chief information security officer. It's not just his responsibility. It's not just the responsibility of the CEO or people who work under the CISO. It is the responsibility of everybody, right? And we're just defining who has what responsibility. Play your part, right? On a sports team, every single person has an important role to play. The same way at a company, at a company, right? Cybersecurity is everyone's responsibility, and everyone is accountable. So make sure you know what you're supposed to be doing, and you play your part. Now, aligning business objectives, right? Cybersecurity governance seeks to align information security practice with the organization's overall business goals and objectives. It ensures that cybersecurity initiatives support and enable business activities while protecting critical assets and data. And that's the balance that we're always looking to find, right? But the key is it has to align with the business objectives. So we need to protect ourselves, of course, critical assets and data, but we also need to be able to perform the necessary business activities. We have to find that right balance, and that's where the business works with the cybersecurity folks, with the GRC, with the governance, risk, and compliance people to find that balance. Now, ensuring compliance. Governance in cybersecurity aims to ensure the organization complies with the relevant laws, regulations, industry standards, and contractual obligations related to information security. This involves establishing policies, procedures, and control to address compliance requirements and to mitigate legal and regulatory risk. When you're in violation, right, of your compliance, your standards, your legal stuff, it can cause havoc on the company, right? So that is the part that the governance people play, where they're making sure that we're in compliance, and that always checking, always asking, they always asking questions to make sure that we're headed in the right direction and that the company is being properly protected. Now, managing risks, right? The same way there's like how do we manage these risks, right? So governance frameworks in cybersecurity focus on identifying, assessing, and prioritizing and managing information risk effectively, right? It's not only to manage them, but you have to also manage them effectively, because that can get super super expensive. This includes implementing risk management processes and controls to mitigate threats, vulnerabilities, and potential impacts on the organization's operation, reputation, and assets. If your reputation is shot, then your company's done, right? If your assets are stolen, the company's done. So it just needs to be able and if the operations go down, your company's done. So always like seeing what the risks are and how to properly put them into place, and to know what's low risk, what's a high risk, what's sustainable, what's not sustainable. Now, protecting assets and data. Cybersecurity governance aims to safeguard the organization's information assets, including sensitive data, intellectual property, and critical systems from unauthorized access, misuse, theft, or destruction, similar to what we read earlier. This involves implementing appropriate security controls, technologies, and practices to protect confidentiality, integrity, and availability, right? So like I was saying earlier, that's like setting up your VPNs, setting up your two-factor authentications, your SSO logins, all of that stuff, to protect. Because like, for instance, you don't want to access critical company data when you're not on VPN, because who knows who can get access to it, right? Making sure that there is a screen lock policy that happens after X amount of minutes, so that people can't just walk by and do whatever, So those are the different factors that plays a part. Now, promoting resilience, right? How does governance promote resilience? Governance frameworks in cybersecurity aim to enhance the organization's resilience to cybersecurity threats and incidents. This includes developing incident response plans, business continuity strategies, and disaster recovery capabilities to ensure timely detection, response, and recovery from cybersecurity incidents, right? You ever heard of those companies where there will be people in their system for like months, they never knew about it, right? So that's what the resilience is like, trying to make sure we can detect when things happen that they shouldn't be happening. If something was to happen, how do we keep the business going? I remember last week I spoke about down here in South Florida, when it's always hurricane season. If you're at threat for a hurricane, they activate the business continuity plan, where you might end up going to a bunker, you might be flown out of state, you might go to a place that is like that's not being impacted by the hurricane, so you can continue keep the business going, right? It's usually like you're working at a limited staff, but it's somehow the business is still up. If someone wants to call in, there's still someone that they can talk to and keep it moving, right? That's one of the better things about working remotely, because you can have different people at different places, so that if one person is impacted, the load is passed off to another region, and it's kind of like the AWS, how they have different regions for resiliency. Now, fostering trust and confidence. Doesn't that guy look super duper confident, right? Governance in cybersecurity seeks to build trust and confidence among stakeholders, including customers, partners, investors, and regulators. Very important, the regulators, right? By demonstrating a commitment to protecting information assets and data privacy. This involves transparent communication, ethical behavior, and accountability for cybersecurity performance. Now, continuous improvement. Cybersecurity governance aims to promote a culture of continuous improvement by regularly assessing and enhancing information security practices, processes, and technologies. This includes conducting periodic reviews, audits, and assessments to identify areas for improvements and implementing remedial actions to address gaps, right? And in some companies, they'll hire outside firms to do an audit to see, okay, what's wrong, what they need to work on, where can they fill these gaps, right? So there's so many different ways that we can continually improve on our processes, especially in the cybersecurity world, right? So then we are also empowering the stakeholders. So how do we do that, right? So we're educating and empowering the stakeholders. Governance frameworks in cybersecurity aim to educate and empower stakeholders, including employees, contractors, and third-party vendors to understand their roles and responsibilities in safeguarding information, assets, and mitigating cybersecurity risks. This involves providing training, awareness programs, and resources to promote cybersecurity conscious culture, right? I can't stress how much it is to have a cybersecurity, a security conscious culture, because so many people are trying to attack everything that we've built, and we just need to protect ourselves against it. So having that security conscious culture is super important. And then mitigating reputation risk. Governance in cybersecurity aims to protect the organization's reputation and brand by minimizing the impact of cybersecurity incidents, breaches, or data breaches on stakeholders' trust and confidence. This involves implementing proactive measures to prevent incidents, as well as effective communication and crisis management strategies to respond to incidents if they were to occur, right? So being prepared, how do we protect the reputation of our company so that we don't look like fools? All right, so how do we establish success in cybersecurity through governance, all right? So basically, organizational success in cybersecurity in governance, right? By establishing effective governance frameworks and practices, organizations can mitigate cybersecurity risk, enhance resiliency, and leverage information security as a strategic enabler for sustainable growth, competitiveness, and success in today's interconnected and digitalized business landscape, right? And that's our goal. We want to win, but we want to win in a safe and acceptable manner. So that is the plan, that is the goal. All right. So in conclusion, what we spoke about today, right? We talked about the definition of governance, right? And not the best and worst governor in the union, but the definition of governance in cybersecurity, the key elements of governance, we went through that, the objectives of governance, we went through that, and the role of governance in organizational success. And that's what we just spoke about. So that was that. Now, what are your thoughts on governance in cybersecurity? Let me know what you're thinking. And I would love to hear your feedback. If you have any questions, please drop it in the comment. Remember, I am learning this with you. So I'm just sharing with you what I'm finding out. And I'm just curious to hear your thoughts. If you have any concerns, if you have any interests, all of that, right? Are you looking to get into governance, to the governance, risk, and compliance section, right? So let's get back to our full screen. Awesome. So thank you for rocking with me as we went through the governance aspect of cybersecurity in the GRC model, in governance, risk management, and compliance, right? So next week, we're going to jump into the risk aspect of GRC. We're going to break that down, see what it's all about, have some fun with that, see how it relates to other things that we're working on, and just learn. We are going to learn together about GRC. We went through last week the introduction to GRC. Today, we talked about governance, we put the G in the GRC. And next week, we're going to talk about risk, right? So like I said, I'm so anxious to hear your thoughts, what you think about this. If you have any questions, if you have any concerns, if you're interested in GRC, if you're like, maybe it's not for me. But remember, GRC is a good part of no code. It's mostly documentations and research and stuff like that, making sure that we're following like the laws, the contractual agreements, the regulations, all of that stuff, right? The industry standards, very important, right? So making sure that we're following along and that we're good, making your company look good. And that's what that is how we protect our company, protect our reputations. So that's that, right? Anyways, do me a favor on your way out. Do me a favor, like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you can know every single time that we go live. And if you need one-on-one technical coaching from me, then go ahead to www.techcoachralph.dev, where you can get access to exclusive content that is not put on YouTube that can help you level up your technical skills as well as your career. And you can sign up for a plan where you can get one-on-one coaching with me. All right. So that is www.techcoachralph.dev, and we can talk to me there. But on that note, thank you for tuning in. We will be back next week where we're going to be talking about the risk aspect of GRC. All right. Until next time, have a great rest of your week. And this is Tech Coach Ralph, and we're out.
If you enjoyed the fascinating information shared in this video and you want more, be sure to hit the subscribe button to Tech Coach Ralph to be notified for new videos.